would like to welcome you to the Coffee Love Sunshine Summit, where we are having conversations to create connections by setting that intention to do so with gratitude and to become inspired by whatever we hear, if that's through an aha moment or a next action to take. Um, I have an amazing expert here today, Teal Elizabeth. She's an expert on relationships, and she's an energetic healer. She does a lot of feminine energy work. She's a deep subconscious reprogramming expert. She can work you through those things. She helps teach women how to relax into love, which is her um, website, and she helps you manifest your most desired relationships with joy and ease. And that's always the thing that I love to hear is joy and ease in everything that we're doing. And especially when we're in our feminine energy, I feel like we're doing a lot of things with joy and ease instead of efforting through those processes. So, welcome, Teal. I'm so glad you're here with your 20 years of experience. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and the journey to becoming, doing the work that you're doing today for women, which has been incredible. I love listening to your podcast. So you have some great stories and some beautiful testimonials. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalie. That's such a beautiful, warm introduction. I can already just feel your own feminine energy just coming through your presence and through your energy of your voice. It's beautiful. Really speaking what you teach.
Thank you.
Um, oh, for me, they always say that your mess is your message, and it couldn't be more true. I really struggled for a long time with understanding how to be in this place of joy and ease, especially when it came to relationships with men and wanting so badly to be in a loving, committed, long-term partnership. But it just felt like no matter what I did, no matter how many dates I went on, no matter how many books I read or YouTube videos I watched, I just could not get a man to stick around. And it really frustrated me. And it happened so often and for so long. I was in this like pattern that I now lovingly call the hook and fizzle, where I would literally hook men in with this allure of being this fun, independent woman. And then a few weeks or a few months into dating me, they would just fizzle away. And this would happen over and over and over again, every few weeks, every few months. And it really started to eat away my self-confidence. And it continued on for 8 years. So it was not something that was just like, oh, huh, that's weird that that's happening. It was like a consistent pattern that the universe was like, something isn't working here. But me and my old self, I still am a very A-type, go-getter, goal-oriented achiever. And I just felt like there's got to be a way I can crack this code. And I just kept going out there and trying again and putting myself out there and just falling on my face. And it just, after 8 years of this, I realized maybe I need to figure this out. Maybe there's something that's just not, not working in me, instead of there just not being a good man out there for me. And that's when I really took time to quit my corporate job. And I ended up going and traveling to Thailand and studying with Buddhist monks. And I know this is so Eat, Pray, Love. This is actually before Eat, Pray, Love, but I just felt really called. And I know we're going to talk a lot about kind of these intuitive hits that, the universe and our angels are always kind of guiding us towards. And this was one of the first ones. I was 23 years old, and it was a real intuitive hit for me. It said, you need to go to Australia. And I was like, why do I need to go to Australia? And I couldn't figure it out. And I had just graduated college and I was starting to get into the career world. And I'm like, why do I need to just go off to Australia? But I ended up, my girlfriend came to me a few months later and was like, hey, I'm going to Thailand and then I'm going to go to Australia. Do you want to come with me? And I said, sure, let's do it. And I just remember in that moment having this just complete release of everything I thought I needed to do and all the shoulds that I'd been putting on myself about you know, go to high school, take all the AP classes, get into college, get good grades, get your degree, all the things.
Check, check. check. Yeah.
Exactly. And for the first time in my life, I said, I don't want to just move into my career. I want to take this trip to Thailand and to Australia and just go find me and really find me. And I remember, yeah, during that time in Thailand, I said to her, I was like, I think I need to do this retreat. And she was kind of skeptical about it, but we went on this retreat. It was 5 days in silence. We donated all of our clothes. We were literally not allowed to talk to anyone, even each other, which was very hard. And during that time, I literally had an out of body experience. And to me, that was my first real spiritual awakening and realizing that, oh my gosh, there is something so much bigger than just this mind that has been almost a little like just keeping me on a hamster wheel, pushing me forward in getting ahead in life. And taking that time to pause and really zoom out of my life and then literally zoom out of my body, it gave me this radical shift in the way that I chose to look at my life from forevermore. I was literally forever changed. And I remember coming back to the United States after that experience, after doing those travels, and just having a whole different perspective on how I looked at relationships, how I looked at my life. And something in my energy really shifted because I really realized that everything is energetic. Everything in this world, every interaction we have with every person on this planet is all about energy. And the way that we choose to show up in our energy is always being mirrored by the ways that people receive us and vice versa. And so I started to really play with that dynamic in feminine energy and starting to lean into more of this feminine essence with men. And it really shifted how things worked with men. And I ended up attracting in the love of my life and my now husband of 10 years. And it really shifted even in my career and how I was just received by my employees. And it felt like I had this magic superpower that nobody else seemed to get. And the more I was intentional about choosing to tap into it, instead of giving more focus and power to the old version of me that was run by the mind and the doing, it was like things started to get easier and more synchronistic and more flowing and more fun. And it's just, I've followed that path of fun ever since. And it's just opened up worlds for me. My husband and I ended up quitting our corporate jobs, traveling the world for 2.5 years, building online businesses while we gallivanted around 35 countries, getting engaged in New Zealand, came back, had a baby. It's just, and now I run this beautiful company that I call Relax into Love, and really helping women to come back home to themselves, learning how to relax back into love with themselves and then with a partner. And it's truly been such rewarding work for me and a consistent practice to make sure that I stay relevant in practicing what I teach and staying kind of leading from the front in this energy and essence.
Right. Just kind of holding yourself accountable for being what doing what you say you're going to do. And right, that's where wisdom comes from too. You can give people all this knowledge, and then if they don't use it, okay, great, you have the knowledge, you took these courses, you got this coach, you did all of these things, and then you didn't put any of that into practice. But when you do, that's where the wisdom comes in, that's where the spiritual growth comes in. And I love how you explain, the feminine versus masculine energy, the masculine energy of doing and efforting and trying really hard for something to happen. Whereas when you're in your feminine energy, you're really just visioning and being, the essence of what you're trying to accomplish. And there just seems to be more ease and flow in that when you are in your feminine energy. It's like you're then attracting, what's meant for you, as opposed to like going out there and trying to get it. So
Yes, yes. Although it sounds easier said than done for sure. And for most of my
oh,
clients, they're just like, that's yes, I want that, but how? How do I do that? How do I actually stop doing so much? Right? Because we've been conditioned in a society that celebrates the doing and celebrates the achievements and the accomplishments and the hustle and the efforting. I think it's slowly shifting now, kind of. But up until recently, that's been a very big part of the Kool-Aid, I think, that we drink in just being in this modern day world, at least in the Western world. And so it almost does have to be a rewiring of our nervous system, our mental patterns, and just our ability to feel comfortable in the not doing, in the surrender, in the trusting, in the faith. And that's where I think so much of the spirituality component really comes in, is having that strong connection with faith of whatever sort feels right, to each of you. But just knowing that there is something else there that is guiding us, that is here to support us, that we are not in this alone, and it's not up to our brain to figure it out.
Right. And that's where we get tripped up, when we're like setting these expectations and then um, trying to do all the things we think we're supposed to do, as opposed to listening to our intuition and whatever is guiding us. Your heart will tell you exactly what that next step is. And so when we're doing that, we're doing what God intended, or what spirit or the universe, or however you talk about, that thing outside of yourself. Um, it's speaking directly to you. And sometimes we allow not only our limiting beliefs, but somebody else's limiting beliefs or ideas about how you should live your life or whatever. And when that comes in, we're not allowing those relationships because we're living through the filter of someone else. So it's really important to listen to our intuition.
Yes. Yes.
It's not a conference call, right? That's what I like to say. um So I know that you like to, in the work that you do with women, you do a lot of clearing and a lot of, layers of emotional, maybe emotional trauma or just self-limiting beliefs. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. The way I like to frame it is this kind of nice analogy that I call layers of mud. I think about it, I just had this sweet little baby, and we see these beautiful little babies, and they almost are just these pure beings of light and love energy, right? Just this little ball of innocence, of sweetness. And then over time, we naturally, as humans, have experiences, some wonderful, some not so wonderful. But those more negative experiences, if they're not dealt with and looked at and healed and addressed in the moments, they can sometimes get pushed down and they start to become almost like a layer of mud over that ball of light. And if we really just keep going through our life, pushing these things down, those layers of mud start to build upon each other heavier and heavier and heavier until one day we just feel so disconnected from our light, from our love energy. And that's where a lot of times women come to me feeling so blocked and stuck. They'll say, Teal, I just feel like the light within me has died, or I just feel so stuck in my head and I just don't know how to move forward, or I just feel so passionless, so like I have no motivation. I just feel heavy. And all of that is just a direct result and consequence of these layers keeping us blocked from this light. And it really is a heavy energy. It's a dense energy, and it's a very blocking energy. And so when we do take the time to say, okay, you know what? It's not that the light within you has died. It's not that you don't have motivation or passions. It's just you've become disconnected from it. And now it's time to literally rinse away these layers. That's when we be able to come back into that light essence. And that is one of the biggest gifts you can ever give yourself, is taking that time to do this work, whenever it is, to begin to wash away these things that have just kept you feeling heavy and dense. Because if we don't, then it can manifest in other ways. It can manifest in gaining weight and literally holding the weight. It can manifest in just in dis-ease in the body and actually creating and manifesting diseases, or ailments or pain in the body. And it can also just energetically be a block, as it was for me with relationships, just an energetic block where men would come toward me and they would see my physical exterior, but they'd feel this intense, almost energy block fortress that I was putting up, and they couldn't get to me And because of that, they would lose interest and fizzle away. And so it's so incredibly powerful to give yourself this opportunity to just get curious and begin to look at what are those layers that might be holding me back and blocking me in whatever area is keeping me feeling stuck. And it's so beautiful. I've seen this happen so many times. I literally call it a soul rebirth experience, where we go in and we rinse out all the layers of muck. We identify them, we heal them, we transmute them, we do whatever we need to do to get rid of them for good. And it's like, I see women's just souls come alive and their radiance just glow from this experience. And then it's just like everything else opens up because of that, because their energy, like you were saying, is very magnetic in that place. When we are tapped into our light, it is impossible to not be noticed. Have you ever noticed that too?
Yes.
When you
You
feel
attract
radiant,
people, like you feel radiant, you feel illuminated, and people are drawn to you immediately because you are uplifting their vibration and you're making them feel that same lightness and glow. And it just brings everyone up in those
yes.
moments.
Yes, and they have literally done scientific studies on this. This is not just some woo thing. Like we literally operate in energetic vibrations. And whether it's a man that you want to cultivate a relationship with or reconnect a relationship with, or it's a work experience that you want to get a promotion or just want to be able to evolve in your career or anything, or your health, it's so powerful when we begin to look deeper within ourselves and come back home to ourselves.
Well, and I love how you talk about it as getting curious about it instead of it being daunting, because some people are scared to look at those things within themselves and they continue to push it down and push it down. And I just love how inviting that you make it sound is to be curious about, finding out more about that. And, that's what I do in my art workshops. It's the same thing, inviting them through art to, deal with those emotional things. So
Yeah.
I know you have an actual soul rebirth course
Mhm.
that you'll be enrolling people in again soon. Can you talk about when that will be?
Yeah, that's going to be happening here in the next few weeks. So, if anyone is interested in just exploring this more deeply and just getting curious about what might be there to be looked at, right now I'm opening up an opportunity to just get on a free 30-minute call with me and just be able to explore a little bit more about where you're at, what you may be struggling with, and just see if I can help you to have some initial clarity and have a little breakthrough and see if this might be a good fit for you. So, I would love to gift some spaces for those free calls with any of the women listening on this in your audience.
Great. And I'm setting the intention now for whoever needs your guidance and for you to hold space for them to be able to find you easily and be able to book that time with you and really find what they're looking for, whatever they're longing for, that you can provide some clarity for them and some healing. Um, I just want that to be able to you to be able to easily connect with whomever is searching for you.
Mm. Thank you, Natalie. And I put that same intention out almost every day in my meditations. It's just saying, universe, let the right women find me. Let them know that this is the next step for them. Let them listen to that intuitive nudge that says, let's just see where this goes. And there's never any ever pressure. It's always just met with love and, like I said, curiosity, because it doesn't have to be overwhelming. When we feel stuck, this is just our soul literally almost like in a little cage going, let me out, let me out. I'm ready. I want to breathe. I can't breathe. And when we begin to give more attention to that than we do to the mind and the constant race of the brain, it really just starts to reignite that excitement for life, that zest, that vitality, even if things aren't perfectly solved yet. It's just that next little baby step. And anytime women are feeling overwhelmed, it's just about, let's just get things in perspective here. Let's just find the next easy baby step that feels right and feels good.
And
And I
taking
think,
the time, just
mm,
taking that little moment to say, I'm setting the intention to give myself enough space, enough quiet in this moment to listen to what that next thing is for me instead of just feeling overwhelmed by all the things, and your brain and your body just becoming like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through all this stuff? And that's why self care and just giving, a few moments to yourself can give you the solution to whatever challenge you happen to be in the moment.
yeah, it's so interesting too. I don't know if you noticed this, but it's such a subtle little whisper when your intuition is speaking to you. It never seems to be some big glaring voice in the sky that's like, you need to do this. It's such a little nudge. Like I remember even just recently or a year or two ago, I was pregnant with my son and we were living in the city. And I just knew that life was not working for us. You know, it just felt intense. It felt crammed. We were in this tiny little apartment. The expensiveness for living in the city and living in the rent that we were paying was just making me feel stressed and not relaxed. And I said, I just don't feel good living here, but I don't know where to go. And then we went to go visit his grandmother, and all of a sudden I just got this intuitive nudge of like, you're gonna move here. I thought, this is so strange. What do you mean I'm gonna move here? Like, this is his grandmother's home, you know? And then 6 months later, his grandmother passed away. I mean, she was old. She was like 92. It was just a natural amount of time. And all of a sudden, the house became available, and the family didn't know what to do with the house. And it was just such a natural, gradual thing of, oh my gosh, we're going to move into this house. And it was such a, again, a synchronistic experience that so easily could have been overlooked or passed up if I wasn't taking those moments to listen or taking that time to actually acknowledge these little whispers and not question it, but to lean into it. And now it gives me chills, Natalie. Like I feel so blessed. And things have opened up so beautifully since moving out of the city into the country, into this beautiful home, even though it was his grandmother's home. Like it's just, we've made it our own. And it's felt so relaxing and easeful. But again, if I gave more focus to the mind and saying, oh, well, what are people going to think, or this or that, or I want a fancy new home, not an old home, or whatever, right? It just, you'd be putting yourself in boxes. I would have been putting myself in boxes of the ego rather than acknowledging the flow and the synchronicity of life always taking care of me. And I think that's just the little insight that I just want to remind any woman listening to as well is just when you get those little nudges, those tiny little whispers, do not push them down because that is literally your angels guiding you on the path of least resistance, on the path of your most synchronistic flow.
And it's also, I always find myself when I have one of those whispers come to me, I get excited. Like I get a little bit giddy and I'm so happy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. And sometimes it can be within 3 seconds, 12,000 doubts why you should or shouldn't do that thing. Right. And then
Mhm.
you're like, oh no, and you were inspired for those 3 seconds. Your body was uplifted. You were in this like little bit of euphoria almost. It's like you have butterflies, when you're anticipating something and you're looking forward to something and you have those butterflies, and then all of a sudden somebody else's doubts or whatever kind of crush that whole inspired moment. So that's, I think, why sometimes it just feels like a little whisper, because sometimes it can only be alive for a second before you allow it to be crushed. And so to really, when you have those moments and you're in that space, even if it's for a short time, like, yes, have awareness of that and then listen and take that action.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful.
How have you found, because when I listen to your podcast and I can hear your son on there sometimes, and he's, you have this beautiful career that you've created yourself, and you still include your son all the time. You'll be on a podcast or doing something and he's with you in the backpack and you're talking, and it's I love how you've melded and balanced your career with your family. If you could just talk about that a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely been a balance. There's no rule book on that, is there?
No,
There's no rule
but the
book.
thing is, you're doing it. And I think some women are out there going, well, I can't do that. I have to keep these two things separate.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's true.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think the first part is just starting to really question the level of professionalism is always with that blurred line, right? I think sometimes we hold off on wanting to include our children into our business or into our work because we think, oh, it's not going to be professional if I bring my kid along to this or that. And in some cases, yes, that's not professional. That's not okay. I'm not going to have my kid here chewing on me while I'm trying to talk to you. But
Sure.
in other moments, it's about bringing in the authenticity and the uniqueness of who I really am and not shying away from that to seem perfect or seem put together and professional all the time. And so I think that's the balance I'm really trying to walk is knowing that there are going to be moments when, yes, I really want to get a podcast out. I feel inspiration coming through me and I really want to speak it and I don't want to clamp that down, but it's my day to watch the baby, right? And so how do I balance being able to do both? And it is a constant juggle. And I'm very grateful to the partnership that I have with my husband. We've both been able to find a way to pivot a lot. And I think that having open communication with your partner when you're mothering and when you're parenting is such a crucial skill and key component of having that balance of being able to do both, where one person isn't building up resentment because the other person's not pulling their weight. But being able to communicate constantly about what's working, what's not working, what do we need to shift, what do we need to adjust. And that's something we've done really beautifully in the last year with on even on a month to month basis of like, okay, I know we said that I was going to give you from, 7 a.m. to 12, but I actually need to have this time. So can you watch the baby from then to then? And being able to balance and juggle that has been a really beautiful gift. But even without that, I think it really does come back to that, just allowing us to have that authenticity of who we are, and not hiding from that.
Yeah. There is a balance between, I mean, it's what drew me to you was your authenticity. Um, you weren't always perfect. You were including your baby. Like that's the thing that made me feel connected to you and wanted to have a conversation with you is because I felt like everything you were doing was genuine. And so yeah, I mean, you are an inspiration to many women out there just because of your ability to do that and have people see it, like you're just a beautiful example of how we can make that happen.
Thank
What
you.
was um how did you decide um to did it just feel natural to include your son when you were doing these
Recording my
podcasts and
podcast.
things? Yeah, because I would have been like taking him to the sitter or some, like for that moment. But I love that he is a part of those.
Hmm. It's definitely, like I said, it's definitely a little bit of a balance because I want to be present. I want to be focused on channeling what's coming through. And it's hard to do that if I'm also keeping an eye on him.
Sure.
But at the same time, he brings so much joy to me and so much of that natural essence of feminine embodiment that I want to exude in what I'm teaching, that they do kind of go beautifully hand in hand. And so that episode was a full experiment to see if I could even do it at the moment. But I think, just to kind of make it more general for everyone listening, I think that whether or not you're recording podcasts or not, I think it's just about bringing that sense of genuineness into every connection. And sometimes I've noticed this, we tend to hide parts of ourselves that maybe aren't perfect or don't feel as put together when people are asking you, how are you doing? Or how is life going for you? The default is it's fine, I'm okay. But being able to really drop in and ask ourselves, how am I really doing? What do I need? And giving ourselves that first And then if people are asking to support us, being able to give that answer genuinely to other people, because that's what creates genuine connection. And that's what you're sharing with me. And this is what I teach with women about how to, connect with men more deeply too. Men genuinely want to connect to your heart. But so often we bring it into the mind and we bring it into the head, and we bring this same interaction to a lot of people where we're afraid to drop into that place of vulnerability, that place of authenticity, for fear of being truly seen, even in some of our ugly parts and our not perfect parts. But that's the part that makes us relatable, as you literally were just saying about me. That is what makes us so captivating and so magnetic. And so instead of it being one of our weaknesses, it's actually one of our biggest strengths. And so being able to start to practice that and cultivate that first by understanding what it is I even need, what it is I'm actually feeling. Is this something that I would want to share with somebody else? Or is this something that I do need to keep to myself? And then two, actually letting people see you, really, truly see you. Yeah. And that's something I'm continuing to lean into and practice getting more comfortable with, not just with the people in my social circle, but now online and with podcasts and with everything, really leaning into that place of what I call strong vulnerability, letting people really see me in all the facets of who I am. And that is what is so powerful and so magnetic.
And it takes a lot of courage. It takes courage to be that vulnerable, but you're right. That is the thing that connects you to people, because there are people out there feeling exactly the way that you're expressing. And then when you're expressing that vulnerability, that's when they can connect to you. So I appreciate you making that point. And I'm now just thinking about my relationship with my husband and how I could be more vulnerable, because I'm always doing all the things to make sure everything's going right. And there are moments when I don't ask for help, or I don't, say what I need, and or share if I'm hurting, because I just want things to keep going. So that's,
Mm. Yes.
even in your really most personal relationships, it's really important to be vulnerable, just so, especially if you're feeling disconnected.
It is essential. It is absolutely essential. And that's what builds that place of connection and closeness between you and your partner. And thank you for being open to share that here too, because that's never fun to admit. It's like, ooh, dang, maybe I haven't
Yeah.
been. And it's such an easy trap to fall into, because as a mama, we want to do it all. We want to make sure everything's taken care of and everyone's good. But in that, we get back up into our head,
Hmm.
get to drop in and check in, and we forget to bring that person who cares about us probably the most into that experience. And when we don't let them in, then we start to block them out. And then that wall starts to build up. And then the resentment starts to build. And the disconnection starts to build. And it's a really slippery slope. So it's extremely important. Absolutely. And it can be such little things. It can be, I call it Scooby snacks, like little dog treats, just little tiny feeling messages of, it feels so nice to be here with you tonight. Right? I love sharing this meal with you. I love having this moment to connect with you. Or, wow, I feel like I haven't seen you all day. I've really missed you. It's so wonderful to hear your voice on the phone. Just little tiny things that can create those moments of connection together and bring you back into that heart space of closeness.
Well, this conversation has been so many things for me, but that's what I like to share when we are having these conversations. They're, you know, just that awareness for me with my husband right there is enough to change something drastically in how we're relating to each other right now. So
Mm,
I really appreciate that. Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Oh,
What these
absolutely.
conversations are for, right? When we're having real conversations, you can find ways to connect more easily. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I also, that's having you offer your free gift of a call is going to help someone in a way, that can really change their life, change their perspective, help them get more clarity. Um, just one conversation with you can help someone. So I hope that everybody here takes not takes advantage, but sees the value in that and does accept your offering, because that is a really beautiful gift. So thank you for offering that to everyone.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I also am sharing, if anyone is just wanting to explore a little bit more but not ready to talk to me yet, that's totally fine. I have two beautiful guided meditations to help you relax back into love, both with yourself and calling in a partnership. So I'll leave the link for those as well.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share today?
I think the most important message coming through for me is to just each of us give ourselves a moment of compassion and cut ourselves some slack, because that mind is so harsh and so critical. And the expectations that we put onto ourselves are usually the harshest and most difficult expectations that are usually ridiculous to even meet and not even something that need to be met, right? We put ourselves to these expectations, to these standards, to these ways that we think we need to be okay, to be safe, to be, moving forward and successful. And truly, the most important thing that you can do is to just be in your own energy of love. And when you really feel tapped into that energy of love, you're not comparing yourself to other people. You're not wishing you were somewhere else. You're not feeling less than. You're just being with you. And I don't know about you, but every time I give myself that moment to just say, it's time to just come back to this place of love. And like you said, starting and ending with gratitude of all the beauty that is there, that is when we really just get back tapped into our magic, into our light, into our essence of power. And that's when everything else gets to shift. That actually helps us get to all those things that our brain's wanting us to get to.
Right.
And
in in a way that feels easy and in flow,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just without, continually having to think about it. Yes.
Yes. And it feels like counterintuitive to the brain, but that means you're
Sure.
doing it right.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I was at an Abraham Hicks conference just last weekend, which was so amazing to get to
Oh,
see her
I
live.
I can't wait to do that
It
myself.
was it was a true bucket list moment come true. And she was talking about a concept called easy existing matches. And I just love this. And I want to be able to carry this message on to more women, more people listening. Our mind is so quick to going into focusing on what's not working in the moment. But when we can choose to look at the focus of finding easy existing matches of things that already are working in our favor towards what we want, it helps to shift and course correct all the momentum that's pulling us in this opposite direction and help move us actually with more ease into what we're wanting. And it's so eye-opening even for me to go, "Oh my gosh, yes. I know I'm focusing on all this stuff that's not working, but there's actually so much that is working. And oh my gosh, everything's actually fine. And why was I stressing about this? And it's all going to work itself out." And it just gets you in a whole different loop, a positive upward loop rather than a negative downward spiral. So that would be my tool for today for anyone listening, is to really take a moment to look for any of the desires that you're really wanting to come true. Really look for those easy existing matches of proof and evidence that it's already on its way.
Yes. Well said. I agree with you 100%. I do that same thing when every night I write, you know, e- the evidence of what I've attracted. If I've set intention with gratitude and it has manifested something, I always acknowledge that evidence and say that I'm grateful for it. And I also say more, please, because I want those things to continue. So, yes, perfect. Perfect. Well said. Well, I appreciate you coming today, Teal, and spending your time with me. I enjoyed our conversation, and I believe there's going to be a lot of aha moments for people out there who join us. So, thank you very much for being here.
Well, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me on, Natalie. I really appreciate it.